I suppose if you had your time again, would you have ever considered a career yourself as a barrister?
I'd say no. I was asked many, many years ago if I wanted to go and get my leaving certificate and do law, and I said no. I really mean it. I really enjoy what I do, and my dear old dad said to me many years ago, whatever you do in life, you've got to like it, and I don't care what you do, but whatever you do, you've got to like it, and I really have loved every minute of what I do.
He was right, wasn't he?
He was.
And that's what you tell your own children?
Correct. Whatever, I know a lot of parents want their children to be such and such and such and such and do, but I just want them to be happy in what they do. And I think that's the most important thing.
And the best thing too, as far as around here is concerned, is it's led to a happy floor.
Correct. And I've been lucky to work for some of the most fantastic minds, some of the most fantastic people, and people that care about other people. So, I mean, what more can you ask for?
A side aspect to your work is, in fact, your training work for sports people, and you coached a couple of Olympic rowing crews, I believe.
Yeah, I was very lucky to coach down at Sydney Rowing Club. I started there, I think, in about 1970 or 71, and then they were a very successful crew. So we did by training them, we did the out-of-boat work, which was weightlifting, sprints and stomach work and stair work and all of that type of thing, which we did years and years ago, which has now been brought in as the latest in training, but we did it some 40 years ago.
Well, how did you know about those innovations then? Was it because you were always reading up about the latest things, or not necessarily the latest things, but the best things for sports people?
Yes, I did train with some great... I trained with George Daldry, who was the City Tats trainer that passed away recently, and also Billy Todd, a former boxing champion, and I looked at their training regimes, and then I took it on board and refined it a bit, and that's what I took to Sydney Rowing Club. We did what they call circuit weights and 4-mile runs, and we trained for about an hour and a half, and by the way, we didn't have a glass of water, and we had 2 schooners afterwards, and they went away. They were set off that they were the best, the fittest athletes to leave Australia in that Olympic year. But it also made me realise that, under pressure you can handle things, because I used to, I had to put them under pressure, and they realise under pressure they can come good, and I think that stood me in good stead here.
Because you applied the same principles to yourself.
Correct. Yeah. So I used to do, it with them. I wouldn't stand there with a clipboard. Everything they did, I did. So and that actually made them go better, because I was a lot smaller than them. They're all, 6'6" and 6'7", but I think having short arms helps a bit. But
because you punched above your weight, didn't you?
Correct. So, and that also, led me to a lot. I trained doctors, solicitors, and I've still, friend. Even walking in this morning, a chap I used to train, Greg Walsh, a solicitor. G'day Dales. I used to train him down at East Rugby, and you get to know, and he's a well-known solicitor. And a lot of solicitors I used to train, and are now, retired. Also barristers. So, and I didn't know at the time that they were even studying law, and then I remember you used to train me down at such and such. So sporting contacts do endure, and I think not setting out to look for work, it does help you get work, because Paul Daley, remember he trained me, he's now, he's a barrister clerk on the 11th floor, give him a call. He should be able to help you. That's what happened, But I must admit, I enjoyed every minute of the training, because it was so different to what I do here. The laughter, and I think it kept you on an even keel. I still do it. I've been going for 40 years down at City Townsville Club, training with one particular bloke for 40 years who was a first-grade footballer, Barry Reynolds. And so we have similar training interests, but our interest in work is completely different. But it's a great leveller, and it also, you look on the other side a lot, and you just see how other people live and how other people live their lives, and it's very, very, I think, good for you.
I was reading in a Virgin airline magazine just only a few weeks ago, actually, about there's a growing number of people at the bar who are seeking outlets in boxing. And it talked about one particular fellow who I think has discovered the joys of blood sport, as it were. And I did wonder, I found myself thinking, well, I wonder if this is because of all the stresses he's accumulated through his work, perhaps, dare I say it, and it's a very current expression, anger management issues, shall I say. You would have known a long time ago that sport is a very good outlet for whatever frustrations and issues you might be building up as a consequence of your work.
Correct, and it's interesting, but and one of the biggest things that people now are advocating with depression, who have depression, is exercise. Now, about 6 years ago, then these people weren't, depressed, far from it, but they were, just law, home, eat, drink, law, home, and I thought, they're only young and they're starting to get a bit portly. Some of them not, but some of them, I thought would like training. So I got this Jodie, lovely, lovely lady, and she's been training them for 6 years non-stop on a Wednesday and Friday at 6:30 in the gardens, and we've had people that have been with her and now gone to the bench. So when we get to new young ones on the floor, I get them to sign up, and they sort of fill that void, and every one of them just loves it. And then they have breakfast together, so they exercise together, they have breakfast together, and they come in to work and start their day. And it's one of the best things they said they've ever done.
You've always known this need for the balance, the work-life balance, but was that instinctive? Were you just naturally sporty yourself? You just fell into it?
Yes, yeah, and that's correct. I did fall into it. I always loved sport, and I love keeping fit because I love the feeling of well-being. I'm not a big drinker. I do have a beer, but I'm not a big drinker at all. And I just like to feel good in the morning rather than wake up feeling a little bit hazy. So, and I think you couldn't work in this job if that was the case.
What if you hadn't? Were there other clerks that just for whatever reason hadn't discovered that sport is a very useful, if you like, decongestant, if you like, of all the problems and issues that accumulate during a typical day of a clerk?
That's right, and I think a lot of clerks years ago, certainly that was the last thing on their mind. They'd prefer to have a schooner.
So you were one of the very few?
Yes, I was the only one.
Gosh, it's intriguing to think what might have happened if you hadn't been that kind of person.
That's right. I think my life would have been totally different. I really do, without sport. Totally different.
So, and thanks in part to what you've been doing and knowing and practising all these years, lots of other people in the law who are trying to now do the same, and for that we might just see a few more happy practitioners as compared to some of the rather sadder cases I've been hearing about.
That's correct. It's, I think it's one of the most, for example, to get up and have a jog at Bondi and then have a dive in the water and then come into work. I've got a mate that is a real estate agent in Bondi, and he has not missed a day in about 40 years. While he's in Australia, he has his trips, of course, and he's a chap that gets down there at 4:45 every morning and swims and goes through an exercise regime, and he's as fit as a 24-year-old, and he enjoys life. He gets out and he has a glass of wine, but only one. So, and it does help, and he's helped other people to, as I have, to try and realise the feeling of what I call well-being.
Sport is a magic key. Any others for you?
No, I think wife and children would be the most important, right up there with the best. If you've got a happy marriage and good children, I think that you've put the ball over the black dot, as I put it. And I've been very lucky to be married for 45 years this year, and I've got 3 terrific children and 4 great grandsons, so it's been a pretty good journey.
Paul Daley, thank you.
Thank you so much, Julia.